No, I took a job about 4 years ago. It wasn't something that I don't think anybody ever dreams of having. Being a college and pro athlete my whole life, it's constantly been winning and winning and winning. And me being in the staff teaching over at a magnet school in Hartford gave me the realistic views of some of the students in regards to the sports program and being for a lot of losses. So I took the job pretty much because of my background. I wanted to help kids out and coach. That's my passion my whole life. These kids in the classroom work just as hard as they do on the field. So it was my opportunity to take the job, both for soccer and baseball, and I definitely took it. I enjoy the kids. They're fun kids, a different group of guys. They're all for the love of the game, and they just like to have fun. So it's a completely different atmosphere, but it's well worth the 4 years that I've been here.
And you had said that there's not as much Little League participation around here. Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Little League, I don't know much about it, but I do know that there's really no farm league feeding into the program that we have at the high school at Weaver. So there's really no middle school baseball going on as far as I know. There's no Little League. There's maybe 1 or 2 teams. Usually towns usually have between 6 to 15 teams in there, so we're not getting a lot of feeder baseball players from the town in general, or from the city, I guess I would say. So the athletes that we have are literally athletes that
love you, coach, love you!
There's always one in the group. Those guys, I was saying that we just try to recruit athletes that play other sports. So I'm fortunate to coach soccer here, and I had a couple soccer players come out over the last couple of years that transformed and jumpstarted the program off.
What do you think about in terms of when they come in, like how much baseball knowledge they have, how much you have to teach
There's
them?
There's literally little to no baseball knowledge. I mean, I might have a few players over the last few years that I had, my seniors last year, who played with me for 3 years. So they already came in with a little bit of knowledge. We transformed them to be baseball players to keep the program up and alive and to an extent be competitive versus L and double L schools that we face. So every year I always have between 1 to 3 kids who have been around baseball, who understand the fundamentals, and that's working them getting better. So the problem is that we need 9 players on the field at one time. The other 6 to 7 players we have on the field, we got to teach them Little League skills, the basics, fundamentals, to get them prepared to play in an L and a double L schools that we're playing.
How many kids tried out for the team?
I want to say in the beginning of the year, I had a roster around 21, knowing some of the kids were going to fall off because I knew who the kids were. So they weren't that serious about it, but they wanted to come give it a try. So they came out, tried it, wasn't for them, so they decided to kind of walk off, which is fine. So we've had a steady, I would say 14 kids throughout the year who have been in and day out, practicing, working hard in the classroom, and participating in learning some life lessons.
And you obviously said it's and you just talk a little bit about the type of kid that loves.
Sure. Yes, I mean, we have no troublemakers at all. I mean, like I said, if I didn't have a passion for the sport and a passion for these kids, knowing some of the backgrounds that they come from, the difficulties at home, the difficulties in school, on the streets, I wouldn't be here. But I could definitely say that I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm coaching these kids. Having proper coaching staff definitely helps out these kids being able to learn life lessons. And they work hard in the classroom and they work hard outside the classroom. And the only thing I could do is try to shape their minds. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how many college athletes we have. Probably none. Maybe 1 possibly D3 player or 2. It's not about them playing in college, about them learning some life lessons, gathering, having some fun throughout their high school years, taking back some memories, taking home some memories, and looking down the road, looking back at this time and saying, you know what, I got a couple W's. They're the first team to do it in a while, and hopefully for them to strive to be successful in life.
So when you guys won that suspended game, what was your thought process in not telling them right away?
Yeah, so that whole process, the umpire told us one thing in regards to being suspended. I found out a few days later that it reverts back to the last inning, which our coaching staff thought. Well, I was just going by what the umpire was saying. So in reference to that, it's been so long since we had a victory, and these kids deserve to be able to celebrate on the field. So I took the head on it in the lead, and I talked to my AD, and I said I'd rather just withhold the information from the student athletes, because I want them to be able to get a W, which I hopefully we got, and eventually we got, and I want them to be able to celebrate instead of having a soft win. Now they had a real one on the field, and we had a discussion at the end of the game over second base with a bunch of the guys, and they were excited, jumping around, giving hugs, just jumping around, being high school players. After that discussion, I opened it and I closed it with saying, congratulations, you guys have 2 victories. And after they got the 2 victories, they already celebrated once, they ended up celebrating again, all jumping at each other, having a real good time, and they just appreciated the fact that I withheld it because it made it that much more sweeter in the end.
Did you think it was a risk, kind of, if you guys had gone through the whole season without getting a win and then having to tell them maybe at the end of the year, hey, listen, guys, you remember that game back then? We actually won that game.
It definitely is always a risk here at Weaver. Unfortunately, it happened to pan out the way I planned it to panning out. But I mean, I had courage and success with these guys throughout the season, growing as players, growing as young individuals, and I foresaw a victory coming our way, whether it was through Harvard Public or Buckley or one of the public safety schools or Two Rivers. So I had faith within them throughout the year growing, and that's why I withheld it, and it just made it that much more sweeter in the end. I did get soaked that game. It soaked me in water, but it was well worth every drip of it.
And what was the feeling, kind of more relief, or you said before you don't really care as much about winning a game as much as you do about the hard work that these guys are putting in and just doing it the right way?
Yeah, I mean, as sweet as the win is for the program, it was more sweeter for the kids to understand how to win or what a win is. A lot of these kids don't win throughout their lives, whether it's in the school or at home or on with their friends or whatever it may be. So for them to get a victory meant more than any other team I've ever coached in my life, or myself being an athlete myself. So it was fortunate for us to get a victory. They had a great time with it. We had a great time as a coaching staff. We've been saying the whole year as a coaching staff, we don't really care about the win in regards to us as individual coaches. It's more for the kids. They deserved it, work hard day in and day out, and they deserved it. So I'm glad they got it.
I was just wondering a little bit about just kind of your philosophy here and like what you think that this season will do towards moving towards next season. Do you think something else is bigger building here, what you guys have been able to do?
Sure. So we have a couple underclassmen who are pretty good athletes. I mean, they came in with some background knowledge. They're sophomores right now. There's like 3 of them. 2 of them who are pretty legit, and one of them who's just learning was a football player transferred into a baseball player. He has some athletic ability. So down the road, hopefully, it's going to open the eyes up to other student athletes throughout Hartford who attend some of the schools that we could pick from to play for Weaver. Because we actually lose a bunch of athletes saying, we don't want to be part of a losing team. We don't want to be part of it. You guys stink and blah, blah, blah. So those are the athletes that I don't want, but hopefully some of those athletes might take a second look at it and a second chance and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to go try for the baseball team. They're doing good things. They're learning things. So hopefully moving forward for years to come, we have a couple young athletes that we have here, probably about 5 or 6 that'll come back next year, in the next 2 years. And we have hopefully get a couple players from the other schools that want to come play now because now we have a couple victories. So. Hopefully the program is in the right direction, as it's been told from many coaches and student athletes around the game in Hartford. So we're just going to go with it and run for it.
Do you think the potential's there to maybe be kind of a state championship contender sometime down the line? Or?
I would say as of right now, we're probably far from that. But that's not to say when they build a new school in Weaver in a couple more years, that doesn't mean that it's going to funnel in more student athletes to be in one building, because the other problem we have is the transportation issue. So a lot of students don't have the funds or the transportation from buses or parents who have cars to come truck them in and out. So hopefully in the next couple of years when Weaver is built, it'll be a lot more easier to run the programs here at Weaver, not just baseball, but the rest of it, because they're in-house, they're right from school, they can come right to practice and get after it. So that's what I'm looking forward to in a couple more years. So hopefully in another 5-6 years, who knows? Maybe we'll be back to where they were in the 70s and 80s.
And yeah, I was just wondering also about kind of parent support. What kind of, do you get a lot of fans for games, or like what kind of?
I would say the first 2 years I was here, I think we had one parent come to every game. Last year was probably the first year where we had multiple parents come. We had a couple players from the previous year, like I said, those parents continue to come. We had a couple new players, star pitchers, the last 2 years, came on board last year, never played baseball in his life. His grandmother, his mother would come, so we've been starting to get more of a following. Again, they're all good kids, so we have good parents who follow the good kids. So they ended up coming, and now we have a couple of students who come from the softball team, a couple of students who come from our school to come watch some of their friends play. So it's growing. It's just growing on a slow pace so far, but we're not willing to give up, and we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep pushing until we get to where we want to be.
Thanks, Coach.